Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. We'll just give people a few minutes to get into the call. Numbers are still climbing. Okay, at 354 sign-ins, I'm going to start. I'm sure there are a few more people who will join us. My name's Wendy Sukier, and I'm the research lead for the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub and the academic director of the Diversity Institute. Very pleased to be hosting this event for ISED. Before we begin, I wanted to say that I'm joining you today from St. Catharines, which is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe people. And I think more than ever, many of us are committed to truth and reconciliation and recognizing the historic genocide that has been perpetrated against Indigenous peoples in this country. Some of you may know I'm at the university formerly known as Ryerson, now Toronto Metropolitan University, and we've changed our name as part of our commitment to truth and reconciliation. And all the work that we do through the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub has an intersectional lens, taking into account the unique needs of racialized women, of Indigenous women, of Black women, of women with disabilities, of women who identify as LGBTQ2S+, and others, so that it's important for us to recognize the unique needs of different women entrepreneurs across Canada. I also wanted to note a few housekeeping things before we get started. This event does have simultaneous translation. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see a button that allows you to select the language of your choice. As we go forward, we are going to try to ensure that ISED has an opportunity to answer your questions. Please post them in the Q&A box. We'll get through as many as we can. And if some remain unanswered, we will ensure there is follow-up. I will also say at the outset that if you have very specific questions, my organization does this, are we eligible? We may recommend that you direct that to the ISED Q&A box. And again, the folks at ISED will follow up on those. I think in the chat, the WES Inbox is posted. Thanks very much, Karmji. Also, as you know, because the Honorable Mary Ng, Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development, has recently announced a second round of applications for the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. There's an opportunity to get more information about the eligibility criteria and what the government will be looking for in applications. The fund was announced as part of Budget 2021's commitment to accelerate the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy and to further build capacity in the ecosystem to support women entrepreneurs in starting or growing or sustaining their business. And so today we have with us Chad Mariage, who is the Director of SME and Entrepreneurship Programs at Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. He'll provide an overview of the parameters for the second round of applications and will assist in answering questions, either in French or in English. And with me today is Tanya Sava, who leads the Quebec Hub for the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub at the University of Montreal, and she will be helping me facilitate the Q&A. So with no further ado, over to you, Chad.
Thanks so much, Wendy. Bonjour, bonjour à tous. First, let me apologize for my voice if it sounds a little hoarse. My beautiful little 2-year-old girl decided to gift me with a virus a few weeks ago, and I've not been able to shake the cough. So apologies if I may have to mute to clear my throat as we get through this. So as Wendy mentioned, my name is Chad Mariage. I'm the director for SME and entrepreneurship programs here at ISED. Before we kind of get into the presentation, though, I would like to tell you that I am speaking to you from downtown Ottawa, from the traditional and ceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to be present on this territory. I would also be remiss if I didn't express my appreciation and thanks to the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub for hosting the event today. The Knowledge Hub has and continues to be an important partner in our efforts to support women entrepreneurs. However, I will note that the Knowledge Hub is not involved in the design or delivery of the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. They're simply being gracious hosts for us today, as they have been for previous calls as well, for those who have tuned into those. And I would also be as well remiss if I didn't thank the large team here at ISED that has been preparing and preparing for this meeting and preparing the delivery of the fund. So thank you to all involved. So the objective today is to provide you a bit of an overview and elaborate on the eligibility for the Ecosystem Fund call that was really recently launched by Minister Ng. Bien sûr, si vous posez vos questions dans peu importe la langue officielle, vous êtes les bienvenus et je vais vous répondre dans votre langue de préférence. Mais la présentation va se faire majoritairement en anglais. So launched originally in budget 2018, as many of you know, the Government of Canada's Women Entrepreneurship Strategy sought to increase women-owned businesses access to financing, talent, networks, and expertise that they need to start up, to scale up, and to access new markets. The strategy included a number of initiatives, including the Ecosystem Fund, which was designed to provide non-repayable contribution funding to not-for-profit organizations to deliver projects that will help close service gaps and strengthen capacity within the women entrepreneurship ecosystem in Canada. The original call for proposals under the Ecosystem Fund in 2018 supported 52 projects across Canada. Details on those projects are available on the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy website, and the team here will put the links in the chat if folks want to explore those projects that were launched in 2018. Excuse me. With Budget 2021 announcing additional funding for initiative under WES, a $25 million call for proposals was launched in January of this year, which focused on supporting new projects that responded to systemic barriers and gaps for diverse, intersectional, and or underserved women. Successful applicants from that call will be announced in due course. I would ask everyone to continue to be patient on that. We are getting close, but they will be announced in due course. The current call that was launched has allocated an additional $40 million for new projects that will contribute to continued business growth and development, with priority given to projects that either support activities in areas of strength for women entrepreneurs. For example, and these are just used as examples, in the care economy, retail, and service sectors, or if they provide services to women entrepreneurs in rural, remote, or northern communities. Selected projects must be national or multi-regional in scope, and multi-regional is defined for the purposes of this call as a project that serves 5 or more provinces or provinces and territories. Projects must also be delivered in both official languages. And so I'd like to delve a little bit more into that and like to take some time to discuss a few things: who can apply, the types of projects that will be supported under the fund, and what will be required in an application. The key to all of this is the program guide, and links to that guide are provided here. The team will put the links in the chat for you to either follow along as I'm going through or to review at a later time. But just know that this is a key resource for you, and you should be referring to this guide as you fill your application in, and just to check your eligibility as well. So first on eligibility, which can be found in section B of the guide, we'll go over a few of those elements. This call is open to Canadian not-for-profit organizations that fall into one of the following categories: business and entrepreneur support organizations, research or innovation hubs, organizations that certify diverse suppliers in Canada, post-secondary institutions, universities, colleges, and technical institutes, Indigenous organizations, and business accelerators and incubators. Lead applicant organizations must have been in operation for a minimum of 3 years as of the deadline of submissions, which is September 26th of this year, so 2022, at 11:59 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Partner organizations must have been in operation for a minimum of 1 year. So just to repeat, lead organizations 3, partner organizations 1. Collectively, applicants must demonstrate that they meet at least one of the following criteria: have an established mandate focused on supporting women and or women entrepreneurs, and or having existing programming offered within the past 3 years which specifically targets or is focused on women entrepreneurs, women's skills development. I would note that in terms of meeting the criteria of having offered programming which targets women entrepreneurs, simply having programming which was primarily used by women is not sufficient. Previous programming must have been specifically designed and or targeted toward women entrepreneurs or skills development for women. In addition, applicants must apply in partnership with at least one other organization. This requirement will act to further strengthen relationships between organizations within the ecosystem. A partnership is formed when organizations operating in a similar sphere come together to deliver an initiative. This could include community organizations connecting with other organizations that serve similar purposes or clientele across Canada. The definition of a partner organization is provided in the glossary of the application guide, which we referred to earlier. In essence, a partner organization is fundamental in the delivery of proposed project and is invested in the completion and success of the project through the provision of either financial and or non-financial contributions. When developing your application proposal, both the lead applicant and partner's experience and expertise may be used to demonstrate the skill set and capacity to meet the required assessment criteria and ensure successful project delivery. For example, if the lead applicant has experience in delivering programming which targeted women entrepreneurs, while one of their partners has experience in delivering supports to northern communities, collectively the partners can demonstrate their ability to serve both women entrepreneurs, and northern communities. Demonstrating experience in both of these areas will serve to bolster your application during the assessments. Similarly, if an applicant organization lacks certain key abilities, for example, delivering services in both official languages, they can partner with other organizations that have these abilities to ensure that key program requirements are met. However, it's imperative that you outline this information in the proposal and how bilingual services will be offered to all women entrepreneurs who may seek access to your services, as in developing that example on official languages. Applications must include letters of support between lead applicant and each proposed partner, signed by their authorized official, which describes their contribution, their roles and contributions in delivering the required project experience, expertise, and knowledge, and if applicable, financial and in-kind contributions to the proposed project. I would note that Crown organizations, Community Futures Development Corporations, Community Business Development Corporations, Société d'aide au développement des collectivités, and Centre d'aide aux entreprises are ineligible to apply as lead applicants, but may apply as and are encouraged to apply as partner organizations on projects. 2018 Ecosystem Fund recipients may be eligible to apply as either lead applicants or as partners, as long as they meet the other eligibility requirements outlined earlier. For instance, a regional ecosystem fund recipient will need to partner with someone in order to meet the national or multi-regional delivery requirement. If you're looking to connect with other organizations to discuss possible partnerships, the Knowledge Hub's sharing platform is available to connect those who have an ask with those who have support to give, and could be a good tool for potential applicants. The free online portal is available at sharing.wekh.ca. We'll also throw that link in the chat for you. If you've never used the platform before, you'll need to take a minute to create an account, and then you'll instantly be able to post your ask or view asks from others who've posted. You can use the connections category to post or find others to collaborate with on your application by including the wording "Seeking Ecosystem Fund Partnership" in the title of your ask. If you have any questions about the sharing platform, we ask that you please contact the Knowledge Hub directly at di.wekh@ryerson.ca, and I believe that's also been posted in the chat. So we'll talk a bit about project scope now, having now discussed who can apply. We're going to discuss what types of projects we're looking for. Details for this are provided in section B, and we are going to be providing the links to that section on project scope in the chat as well for ease of access. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. So projects must be either, as indicated before, national or multi-regional in scope. Priority will be given to projects which deliver benefits to women-owned businesses and or support activities in areas of strength for women entrepreneurs. And again, as example, the same ones I used earlier: care economy, retail, service sectors, or others. Or projects which provide services to women entrepreneurs in rural and remote areas or the north. Eligible focus areas include one or more of the following: enhanced or expanded 2018 WES Ecosystem Fund projects, the delivery of business supports for women entrepreneurs, which may include business operation innovations or supplier diversity and procurement. Additional information on eligible activities is also outlined in the guide and is in section B of that guide, and we will post the links to that section in the chat as well. Projects must deliver services and products in both official languages, English and French, as I indicated earlier. Applicants must clearly outline in their application how they plan on providing services in both official languages. Translation costs, if applicable, should be built into the proposed budget. And I'll just stress the importance of the how there, because it's not sufficient to just say we will provide services in both official languages, but you need to demonstrate to us how you're going to achieve that piece. All proposed activities should be funded, to be funded through this call, should be completed by March 31st, 2025. Project budgets must have a minimum total budget of $250,000 and must not exceed $3 million in total. Operating or administrative costs for delivery organizations are capped at a maximum of 15% of the total requested project funding. Costs that are reasonable, incremental, and required to carry out the eligible activities will be reimbursed. I would encourage everyone to review all of the eligible and ineligible costs, which are also outlined in section B, for which the links have already been provided in the chat. Now let's chat about the application process before we turn to questions. These requirements are outlined in section B7 of the guide, and we will be, as we have been, posting the links to those in the chat as well for ease of access. So each application package that you submit will include a number of documents. So it needs to include a completed application form, a proposal paper, which is 12 pages for English and 14 pages for French applicants, maximum. 3 years of past financial statements. They can be either audited financial statements or review engagement, but they need to be one of the two for the lead applicant. Incorporation documents for the lead applicant, completed budget detail template, and these templates are provided in the package that you see on the web. A sustainability plan covering the period after funding ends in 24-25, and letters of support from each partner organizations. Quebec-based organizations will also need to confirm that they comply with M30 legislation, although folks that get to the kind of end of the process, we will work with any successful candidates to ensure proper authorizations are obtained in that regard. Through the proposal paper, each applicant will be asked to elaborate on a number of areas, including how their organization meets eligibility criteria, who are the key partners in the project and their roles, an overview of the project team, including experience in project management and in working with women entrepreneurs, the project objectives, the scope and activities, including who will be served, where, how, and how services will be delivered, any associated risks and the plan to mitigate those risks, project budget, how the project activities will contribute to the planned outcomes of the WES Ecosystem Fund, and plans for future sustainability of the project. Section B5 in the guide provides instructions on how to format the project proposal and the specific details that are being sought for each element of the project proposal. We would encourage you to, and all interested applicants, to review this section closely in advance of preparing an application, as we wouldn't want or to see anybody screened out for reasons that are kind of outlined and explained in the guide. Finally, before we turn to questions, I want to provide a quick overview of the timelines and the assessment process. The deadline for applications, as I mentioned earlier, is September 26th, 2022 at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. Please take note that it's Pacific Standard Time. We strongly recommend that you submit your application with all the mandatory documentation well before the deadline to ensure there are no unforeseen technical issues at the time of submission, because late submissions will not be considered for funding and you will be screened out. That includes anything that is not submitted as a part of your application. So double check all of your documents and make sure that they're properly attached before you submit, because any documentation submitted after the cutoff cannot be considered as a part of the application, in fairness to all of the other applicants. We also strongly recommend that you review the checklist located at the bottom of the application guide and the application form to ensure that you've included all of the necessary documentation. If you have questions, you can send them to the WES Inbox, though we're going to provide the link in the chat. That is kind of your lifeline. If you have any questions on this process, please don't hesitate to send an email there. However, if you wait until the last minute, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to answer in time, as we will be busy closing the application period. Once the call for application closes, the government will assess the applications based on the criteria that's set out in the application guide, and applicants will receive confirmation of their application's receipt and will be advised in writing of their project's assessment outcome as we get through our assessment period. Successful proposals under this call will be awarded non-repayable contribution agreements with funding concluding on March 31st, 2025, as I indicated earlier. An important consideration is that successful applicants who receive funding under the Ecosystem Fund will be required to regularly report to ISED on the initiative. This will include quarterly progress updates, annual reports, including audited financials, and a final report once the contribution is concluded. That concludes my presentation. So I'll pass the mic back to Wendy and team for the Q&A portion. I hope I did that quickly enough and left enough time for questions, but please don't hesitate to ask in either language.
Thanks so much. And we have lots of questions already. I also wanted to thank my small and mighty team. I see Karmjeet and Catherine and others are here to support this event, and it was pulled together quite quickly. So very pleased we got such a great turnout. And as we said, we may not get through all the questions or may not have all the information you need. And so we do have a process to ensure follow-up. So I think the first question, Chad, is really the relationship between this funding call and I guess the call that ended in March 22nd and 2022. And we have a number of people asking about when those decisions could be expected, A, and then B, if there's anything to stop an organization or organizations that applied for that call applying to this call.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Wendy. Obviously, we understand the challenge of making a decision as to whether or not to apply on the second call without knowing the status of the first call. Applicants to previous call, including the first, any WES calls, so loan fund, IWVCI, and the first call here, are eligible to apply under this call, as long as they meet the eligibility criteria that I outlined earlier and that's contained in the guide. However, I will note that the same project can't receive funding under multiple contribution agreements. So, it can't be the exact same project that receives the funding. Applicants should ensure that the project proposals meet the requirements and the objectives of the second call for the Ecosystem Fund, because the requirements are slightly different. The exact same proposal may not fit necessarily well in this call. So folks, if they're considering resubmitting their application just as a precaution, they should make sure that they're checking all of the requisite boxes in terms of eligibility, and making sure they're addressing the scope and the objective of the second call for applications. The decision to apply obviously is at the discretion of the applicant. If they have questions that they're not sure, they can reach out to the team via the email that I sent earlier. As I mentioned during my remarks, in terms of timing, I can't commit, unfortunately, to when specifically announcements will be made for the first call. I will tell you that we're well advanced on our assessments, and we're hoping to have something in very soon, but certainly in due course. And I can tell you that getting those out is definitely a priority for the minister as well.
Thanks so much. So the next question, I'll combine these, and you've heard this question with respect to other calls, and that is why is the funding not available to Indigenous communities in one official language plus an Indigenous language?
Yeah, no, happy to answer that question. So it is open, and we encourage those Indigenous organizations to apply. They just need to partner with another organization that might be able to offer, the programming with the other official language. So we certainly encourage folks to, those organizations to apply. We encourage, them to provide those services to their communities and in their language. We welcome any other languages at minimum because of the requirements under the Official Languages Act. We do need to have those services available in both French and English, and we would encourage those organizations to partner with other organizations to demonstrate that they can meet that. But we certainly encourage them to to provide those services in their language as well.
And just a related question is, Inuit Nunagat is in 4 regions, not 5 regions. So would you say essentially the same thing in response to that they would need to partner with a group in the 5th region?
In order to meet the eligibility requirement of multi-regional national, and given the definition that we've provided, they would need to partner with another one to meet that threshold.
Okay, I'll ask one more question and then give Tanya a chance en français. So there's a question about, is it for nonprofit only, or can a for-profit organization partner with the nonprofits as long as it's not a lead?
The lead applicant, as I said, needs to be a not-for-profit. I would say that a for-profit can be a partner. I don't see any kind of barriers to that. However, private sector partners will be expected to make a financial or an in-kind contribution to the project. Private sector partners are not intended to be beneficiaries of the funding, and so they will need to come with some money to the table to their partners, because the federal funding shouldn't go to the private sector, basically.
Okay, so I think that maybe you can clarify another dimension of this, which is, can a for-profit partner also be a supplier to the program? So there's a bit of complexity.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think the organization that's going to be delivering the product or the service to women entrepreneurs can certainly enter into a contract with with a private entity to help provide and deliver that service. No issues there. But if they want to join as a partner, that's where we can't have a direct investment from our funding to a private sector company, and that's where they would need to bring in kind contribution to the partnership.
Okay, great. Tanya, did you want to pick up a couple of the French questions?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Wendy. Merci, Chad. En fait, vous venez de répondre, je pense, à plusieurs questions posées dans le même sens en français. Donc, sur les partenariats des OBNL avec des organisations à but lucratif. Donc, je pense que c'était très clair. Peut-être pour continuer un peu dans ce sens, vous avez justement la question qui reste dans la même veine. Quel serait le pourcentage de contribution en nature ou en argent que les déposeurs doivent contribuer? Est-ce qu'il y a un ordre de grandeur que vous avez établi?
Nous, puis l'équipe va me corriger, là, mais je crois pas qu'on a établi un seuil de cette contribution-là. Je pense que c'était négocié entre les partenaires, mais il faut évidemment, pour que ça soit valable pour le partenaire, il faut que ça soit un certain somme. Mais nous, comme gouvernement, on n'a pas établi un seuil repère ou rien comme ça pour ces contributions-là.
OK, d'accord. Peut-être aussi pour continuer, une organisation demande sur la question des partenariats, s'ils sont en partenariat avec justement des organismes ou des partenaires, mais qui appartiennent au même groupe, à la même fédération, est-ce que c'est considéré comme étant une représentation canadienne dans ce cas? Et est-ce que
Si,
les partenaires sont éligibles?
si je vous dirais si ils rencontrent les critères d'éligibilité, dans le sens qu'ils sont nationaux ou ils couvrent 5 provinces ou territoires, je vous dirais qu'ils seraient éligibles à faire demande dans ce sens-là. Moi, tant que ce critère-là est établi, que ce soit le même organisme qui est national, qui couvre le territoire, puis qui peut démontrer qu'ils vont livrer le service dans ces territoires-là, pour moi, ça serait éligible. Puis je tiens à être corrigé là, par l'équipe, mais je pense que moi, je vous dirais c'est ça.
Très bien. Est-ce que can I have one more question, Wendy?
Go ahead.
Vous avez répondu à plusieurs des questions, puis les personnes qui ont posé des questions sur l'éligibilité, des personnes qui ont déjà présenté aux autres concours. Je ne vais pas reposer la question à Chad, puisque les questions, il a déjà répondu. Si jamais il y a des spécifications, s'il vous plaît, nous les donner. Alors, une question qui dit, dans la même demande, est-ce qu'on peut présenter différents projets en collaboration avec différents partenaires spécialisés en lien avec chaque projet? Vous comprenez? Est-ce qu'on peut un peu, si vous voulez, découper les projets avec des partenariats quand même qui sont spécifiques à ces différents projets?
Je veux juste m'assurer de bien comprendre la question, Tania. Est-ce qu'on parle ici de plusieurs demandes de financement ou est-ce qu'on
Non,
parle d'une demande de financement qui a plusieurs différents projets à l'intérieur?
exact.
Ce serait une question difficile pour répondre spécifiquement parce qu'on parle vraiment d'une spécificité. Je vous dirais qu'il faudrait démontrer que les mêmes services soient disponibles selon les critères d'éligibilité. Hein, parce que si on a 5 différents projets à l'intérieur d'un parapluie de projets, mais qu'un élément est seulement disponible dans une province, mais là je vous dirais qu'on commence à embarquer sur un territoire qui est peut-être qui peut frôler inéligible. Donc, ce que je vous dirais, c'est que il faudrait que ça démontre que le projet, dans son entier, sert les critères dont on a mentionné tantôt. Mais rien n'empêche que cet organisme-là puisse avoir plusieurs partenaires pour aider dans la livraison de ce projet-là.
OK, mais c'est très clair. Je pense que c'est exactement ça. L'important, c'est qu'il y ait un fil conducteur sur
C'est ça,
l'ensemble des services qui
c'est
sont
ça.
proposés.
Oui,
Très
c'est
bien.
ça.
Je pense que c'est très clair. Merci. Back to you, Wendy.
Great, thanks. So I'll combine a couple of the questions. One of them is clarity on the semantics. So it says, priority will be given to projects which deliver benefits to women-owned businesses and or support activities in areas of strength for women entrepreneurs, e.g. care economy, retail, and service sectors. Please clarify if both these conditions need to be met. So is it conceivable that an organization could come forward with a retail project that was not targeting women entrepreneurs, or is it expected it will be for women entrepreneurs in those designated sectors?
So I'll first say that there are no designated sectors. I will say, as I indicated in my remarks, those were really provided as illustrative examples. If there are other sectors that women entrepreneurs are involved in, then by all means, like they should be included. I would say on the flip side, as long as, and as I indicated again in the remarks, as long as what the applicant is proposing is specifically targeted to and deliver services to women entrepreneurs, I'd say they're good, regardless of kind of which area they're in, as long as it's targeted. I think it would be eligible in that respect.
And Chad, you may feel you've already answered this, but just
No,
by
that's
way
okay.
of clarification. So, for example, we know in the tech sector, women are not well represented. Would that mean that a program that was aimed at increasing the participation of women entrepreneurs in tech would not be preferred relative to care economy, etc., or would it be ineligible, or is it a matter of preference?
No, I think it would be assessed on its merits. I don't expect that we would prefer one sector over another. I think the objective of this call and other calls that we've done is to address a real intersectional kind of, not only in terms of diversity in the proper sense, but diversity of kind of sectors as well. I mean, if there's a really good project that seeks to, to do, as you say, in the tech sector, I don't see why it wouldn't be considered on its own merits. And in that sense, there wouldn't be a prioritization in the in terms of the sectors. As I said, those three were meant just as illustrative examples of sectors. Tech, construction, whatever could be very well included in there. But as long as the key is to go back to, as long as it's targeted to women entrepreneurs, then it should be okay.
Okay, great. And I think one of the things that a couple of folks on the call have asked about is how women entrepreneurs will then actually access the services. So will they be announced? How will they know about what services are available?
So as we've done with other calls, and I think earlier we posted the link to the 2018 recipients. The minister will announce the successful recipients for the first call and for this call. And then once they're announced by the minister, we will do similar to what we did in 2018. We'll put the list on our website, and folks can contact those recipients directly.
Okay. Another question about official languages, and I know this has always been an issue for us at WEC, and the question is, can you just be explicit about the requirements for both official languages? So does it mean everything has to be offered in a bilingual format, or can all services be offered, but some in French and some in English through the various partners?
So I would say, as a rule of thumb, if I'm an entrepreneur and I want to be able to have, if I'm an Anglophone entrepreneur, I want to be able to go to an organization and have the same service in French or in English. So I would say that any product or service that is funded by this should be available in both official languages.
I guess the question is, take a webinar, for example. This webinar is bilingual.
Yep.
Could organizations be saying, we're going to provide exactly the same content? Here's the English webinar, here's the French webinar, rather than trying to do them simultaneously?
Oh, yes, absolutely. As long as the same content is available in some fashion, yeah, no, that's fine. As long as entrepreneurs can access in either language, however the organization decides to do that. And that's where I think it's important in the application to really outline how they're going to meet. That's why, as I stressed earlier, it's not good enough just to say, we're going to do it. It's showing us how or demonstrating to us how you're going to meet that, so that we can really get a good sense of how they're going to meet that threshold of serving in both official languages.
Thanks so much. Tanya, do you want to pick up any other French questions?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Wendy. Maybe a quick question. Is there going to be est-ce qu'il va y avoir un autre appel? Excusez-moi. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir un autre appel sur une base plus régionale, puisque celui-là doit couvrir quand même 5 provinces? Peut-être question rapide. Est-ce que vous le savez? Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose dans les cartons?
Le premier appel qui a fermé récemment là, était essentiellement ça.
OK.
Donc, en ce moment, on se concentre sur l'appel qu'on a en ce moment. Si le gouvernement décide à un autre moment donné de lancer un autre appel, ça, si je pourrais vous le dire, je vous le dirais, mais je n'ai pas les cartes. J'ai pas ces cartes-là devant moi, mais un gouvernement pourrait certainement décider de lancer un autre appel, mais pour l'instant, on se concentre sur les deux qu'on a lancés.
Très bien. Deux questions vont dans le même sens. Comment est-ce qu'on couvre 5 provinces? Alors, est-ce qu'il faut avoir des ressources physiques dans chaque province? Est-ce que si on va faire des activités, est-ce que vous pouvez peut-être donner un peu plus d'informations sur le fait de couvrir 5 provinces? Est-ce que si on fait des programmes applicables sur 5 provinces? Voyez un peu. La question, c'est est-ce qu'il faut avoir des ressources physiques? Est-ce qu'il faut avoir des activités précises dans chaque province qui est couverte?
Pas nécessairement une présence physique. Je veux dire, il y a plusieurs façons, je pense, qu'on peut aborder cette question-là. Il y a évidemment la façon privilégiée, c'est des partenariats, parce que nous, on veut encourager un écosystème qui s'élargit puis qui se renforce aussi. Mais si le demandeur peut nous démontrer que quelqu'un, j'utilise ça comme exemple, à Halifax peut avoir le même service que la personne à Victoria, puis entre les deux, s'ils peuvent nous démontrer ça de façon adéquate dans leur application, ça va être évalué. La façon qu'ils vont rencontrer les 5 provinces, les 5 provinces du territoire ou national, c'est vraiment à eux de nous le démontrer. Je n'ai pas une recette magique à cet effet-là, mais parce qu'il y a vraiment plusieurs façons à rencontrer cette exigence-là. Mais comme je vous dis, puis comme j'ai dit à plusieurs reprises, s'il y a des questions spécifiques, on peut toujours nous les envoyer par courriel. Évidemment, on ne peut pas répondre à des questions précises sur des projets spécifiques, mais si c'est des questions d'ordre général, l'équipe va répondre à ça très rapidement.
OK. Et une autre question, est-ce que le ministère serait intéressé ou pourrait mettre à la disposition des différents organismes des listes de partenaires qui sont disponibles dans les autres provinces, surtout par exemple des ressources francophones? Bien sûr, moi, ce que je dirais, c'est que le WEC, à travers le PCFE, on a fait beaucoup d'efforts pour lister justement beaucoup d'organismes. Mais ce n'est pas à moi de répondre aux questions de votre côté, mais je référais la personne aussi à regarder du côté de toutes les listings qui sont faits sur le PCFE, sur le site du Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, en français, en anglais, où il y a beaucoup de partenaires qui sont listés. Mais de votre côté, je ne sais pas si vous avez vous-même, est-ce que vous faites des activités de maillage ou ça fait un peu partie de notre travail?
Non, donc on ne fait pas des activités de mariage. Je vous dirais que la liste que nous avons mis pour les récipiendaires de 2018 est là. Si les gens veulent y accéder, c'est là. Mais je pense que c'est vraiment la raison pourquoi on est référé à l'outil du Knowledge Hub pour pouvoir justement aider à arranger ces mariages-là. Puis je sais pas, I don't know, Wendy, if you wanted to speak to your tool a little bit just to give folks some clarity on that, but it might be worthwhile from that perspective. But that's something more that the Knowledge Hub, I think, through their tool would be able to facilitate.
Karmjeet, maybe you can make sure you post that en français, so it's clear that that's available in both languages.
Maybe just one last quick question. Le budget de 3 millions que vous êtes en train de dire, ça c'est pour le projet total, j'imagine. Est-ce que vous pouvez, c'est ça. Donc c'est pas une contribution. OK. Ça peut être des projets qui vont jusqu'à 3 millions, c'est ça?
Maximum 3 millions, minimum 250 000 sur les 2 ans.
OK, très bien. Donc, ce n'est pas une partie venant de la stratégie. Le 3 millions, c'est pour le projet que la personne peut...
C'est ça. Oui.
Très bien, merci.
I'm conscious of time, so I am going to try to combine questions, but we will make sure that we will make sure that any questions that haven't been answered are followed up on. So one of the questions, and I think you mentioned this, Chad, but just two that I think are important. Can funds be used for grants or prizes to women entrepreneurs participating in the program? Is that an allowable expense?
I believe it is. Maybe you can go to a different question. The team will confirm with me,
Okay.
and I'll circle back. But I'm almost positive it would be, as long as it's within kind of the confines of the program or the project.
Okay, and the other question is, A, can one organization submit more than one proposal? And B, can one organization participate in more than one proposal? So for example, could one organization submit a proposal and then support a different proposal as well?
So on that question, I would say yes. I would say as a lead applicant, they shouldn't submit more than one. But they're welcome to participate as a partner on others for sure. No, there'd be no limitation on that.
Great. Another question is, are there staff available to support applicants in the development of their applications?
No, unfortunately not. Not from just from a fairness perspective. I think we're happy to answer general type questions, but specific kind of development won't. Unfortunately, we won't have resources in that respect. And just let me circle back to your question on the grants pieces or direct funding. I stand corrected. Grants or direct funding of women entrepreneurs is not eligible, is not an eligible expense. So thanks to the team for the quick message on that.
Okay, great. Question, even though it's directed at Canadian organizations, can international organizations be counted as partners if, for example, the focus is on trade capacity building?
So they can be, but money cannot go outside of our borders, basically. The money needs to stay within Canada.
Okay. And I think I can answer this question. I heard you say post-secondary institutions can be a lead organization.
Yep, absolutely.
Tanya, are there any more French questions you want to pick up on?
No, I think some of them are being covered also, I mean, with the English question. I would say just one. Pour des organisations qui ont été incorporées très récemment, comme en 2021, est-ce que ils peuvent être aussi éligibles? Parce que vous avez dit qu'il fallait présenter de la documentation, etc.
Donc, comme j'ai expliqué, pour être partenaire, il faut que ce soit un minimum 1 an. Puis pour être éligible comme principal, comme applicant demandeur principal, il faut un minimum de 3 ans.
Okay.
Au moment où l'appel va fermer le 26 septembre.
D'accord. Très bien, merci.
Mais ils peuvent nous démontrer, évidemment, qu'ils rencontrent ces exigences-là en partenariat, etc. Là.
OK, mais parce qu'ils disent qu'ils ont commencé à travailler les affaires depuis 6 ans, mais l'incorporation s'est faite jusqu'il y a 1 an. Donc, la partie officielle compte 1 an, mais l'expérience est plus longue. J'imagine qu'ils peuvent vous poser la question aussi directement à travers votre...
Oui, c'est ça. Oui.
Très bien. Merci.
Thanks. Again, another technical question. Can you confirm if it's 3 years of audited statements or 3 years of activity required and 1 year of audited statements?
I have to go back to my notes, but I believe it's 3 years of audited or review engagement, and or it could be either one, but it needs to be 3 years of statements. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just looking to see. There are some questions about the design of the program, but I think those perhaps can be taken offline. And more questions about when we'll hear back from the earlier call. I think you've answered this, but it bears repeating. Does the lead partner need to be the one with experience in women's entrepreneurship, or can that be brought in by another partner?
I would say that there needs to be a demonstrated from the lead as well. I think I don't have the exact wording in front of me from my notes here. I can find it quickly, but I just scroll up here to get the exact wording because I don't want to.
Is it an outright ineligibility if the lead and partner applicant are not present nationally or only present in one province? There have been a number of questions, i.e., does the lead partner have to be in all 5 regions, or can the lead partner be one region and bring in partners that operate in the other regions so that it has the 5 region coverage? Can you just
no, absolutely. That's what we encourage, frankly, is, in order to allow for that, a development of the ecosystem and kind of expansion of the ecosystem. As long as they can demonstrate that they're meeting that requirement through partnerships, then that would meet the requirement for sure. And that could be through, like, obviously we would need the documentation to support that, the letters of support, et cetera, et cetera. But no, definitely that would be encouraged.
Okay. Another question is with respect to, I'm trying to type some answers to ones that are straightforward. It says, why are social enterprises excluded from being considered as a lead partner for the fund application?
I just don't want to give you the wrong things here, so maybe I can come back to that one as well.
Okay. I think it's, the definition of social enterprise can include for-profits with a social mission.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's targeted to not-for-profits, and so that would probably be the easiest answer.
Okay. A question about in-kind contributions from the for-profit partner. How will that affect the project budget?
It needs to be demonstrated in the budget. I mean, they need to demonstrate to us like that their for-profit partner is providing an in-kind contribution, and my recommendation would be that be included in the kind of letter of support that organization is submitting as a partner.
Okay. There was also a question about the care economy and how that's being defined, and that's the last question because I realize we are out of time, but we will definitely ensure that everybody who's typed in a question will get some kind of response. And yes, there is a recording available of this session. So Chad, can you explain the care economy?
So as I said, that those have been used for illustrative purposes, right? So I don't think that we've come to a definition of what care economy is. Just like, we wouldn't define what retail economy is. I think, or retail sector rather. I would say as long as you demonstrate the targeted to women entrepreneurs piece, as I said, regardless of the sector, I think you'll be considered. So I wouldn't worry too much about kind of definitions of care sector, because those were used just for illustrative purposes.
Fantastic. Well, listen.
And just Wendy, I'll just circle back quickly on the time piece. I will say that when developing the applications, both the lead applicant and the partner's experience will be used or can be used to demonstrate the skill set and capacity that meet the required assessment criteria. So, and again, as I've always said, if there's other questions of that nature, please send them to the inbox, and we're happy to answer them as well.
So listen, thank you very much to all of you who joined us. I want to thank Chad and his ISED team. I want to thank the WEC team. I want to thank Tanya Saba. I want to underscore that you can send follow-up questions to the WES site, which has been posted. If you have any questions about this webinar, access to the recording, which we will send to everybody, feel free to contact us, or if you need information about the sharing platform. And lots of emails and contact information have been dropped into the chat. So thanks very much. Really, really appreciate your participation and look forward to talking to you again.
Yes, see, thank you.